Good morning, everyone. This is Pip, if you didn't meet him on your way in. Pip is an American kestrel, which is a small falcon, and he came into our wildlife center 6 years ago. He actually had left the nest, and unfortunately, one of the first things he did was fly into somebody's window, and he broke his left wing. You can kind of see it is not quite the same as the other. And then he was picked up by a cat, so he had all kinds of wounds going on. He had to have a broken bone fixed, and our wildlife veterinarian did her best to try to get him to be releasable. But unfortunately, because he's a falcon, he needs to be absolute perfection flying, and he's not quite there. He can fly, but not as well as he needs to be able to survive in the wild. And so we decided at that point that he would make a great educational animal, and he does. He's obviously very calm in this situation. So this is Pip, our American kestrel. I'm going to turn it over to Christine.
Good morning. So as we know, Pip here got a second chance. And many of us humans have also received a second chance, perhaps thanks to medical treatment that healed us, or recovery from an accident that hurt us, or maybe we were just in the wrong place at the wrong time and something bad happened. So for injured, sick, orphaned, and pollution-damaged wildlife in San Luis Obispo County, the mission of Pacific Wildlife Care for 38 years is to give wildlife a second chance to thrive in their environment. We are licensed by both the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, yet we receive no sustained funding from any government source. 90% of our funding each year comes from donors in our community. So how do we rescue, rehabilitate, and release wildlife? Well, with your help. Last year, 1,700 people in SLO County were wildlife heroes. They brought in an animal, or they called our animal wildlife hotline to arrange a rescue. Without a doubt, a compassionate human is our most valuable partner and enables us to treat over 2,600 animals each year. Our staff and volunteers are on duty 365 days a year to respond to animal emergencies in our clinic and on our wildlife hotline, 805-543-WILD, 805-543-9453. But for details about all of this, check our website, pacificwildlifecare.org, dropped in the chat for you Zoomers, and check our courtyard table for those of you in person. But now let's talk about what's going on in SLO County. So nesting and baby season, April through September, always the busiest season for animal rehabbers. Lots of babies, both birds and mammals, who've been orphaned, cat caught, or had their nests disturbed. This April and May, we smashed all previous animal care numbers in our history. Why the sudden increase, and should we worry about that? We believe there are two reasons, both positive. First, you found us. During COVID, when we all spent more time outdoors and noticed the wildlife around us, and including wildlife in need. Second, we're transitioning our hotline to answer it live instead of the voicemail and callback system we've had for many years. And we've extended our hotline to 7 p.m. in spring and summer, which is 3 additional hours every day. So the calls have been coming in nonstop. At this time, we don't suspect that anything unusual in the environment is driving this particular increase. However, this is not necessarily true about those pelicans. So since May 15 and days after, we started receiving pelicans. Ultimately, we had 55 in our care. They were mostly teenagers who supposedly can care for themselves, right? But yet they were found here starving and emaciated. However, exams revealed no evidence of poisoning or avian flu you might have heard about. Plus, there's plenty of fish in the sea this season. Once we began treatment, including feeding them, like teenagers of all species, the pelicans ate and ate, eating through our entire budget of fish for 1 year in about a month. Each pelican can eat between 4 and 6 pounds of fish a day. Fortunately, the community stepped up to donate to feed the pelicans, and this support helped us stock up on sardines for the pelicans, as well as for many other hungry seabirds that we'll have in our care. Today, just over a month later, I'm happy to report the vast majority of pelicans have been released back to the wild to continue their journey of migration to Baja, Mexico, thanks to the excellent care received at Pacific Wildlife Care. Our social media pages have great release videos. So what was the cause? And should we worry? The Department of Fish and Wildlife point to sustained and prolonged winds that made it hard to hunt for fish. So pelicans are like big kites, and they struggled to dive and fish appropriately during this intense wind period. And I think we can remember, wow, it was super windy this winter. Was it windier than normal? Well, apparently it was. Climatologists do suggest stronger winds are one factor in climate change. Were the starving brown pelicans a very real example of climate change here in our county? It could be. But no matter the cause, Pacific Wildlife Care is here to help and to heal, to give wildlife a second chance. So what can you do to support wildlife right now? You can donate, you can volunteer, and you can come join us Saturday from 11 to 5 at Wolf Vineyards for Wine with Wildlife, or one of our summer fundraising events. Please be in touch with me at any time for more information, and let's work together to keep San Luis Obispo wild. Thank you.